Hi, my name is David Shafiq, and this screencast is going to cover Ajax and PHP end-to-end debugging. We'll be using Firefox with the excellent Firebug and Zend Studio toolbars, as well as Zend Studio and the Zend Debugger. I'm going to be demonstrating using a very simple Hello World form validation Ajax application. So let's start by submitting our form with no data. This should bring up a validation error. However, as you can see, the application instead responds with hello. Why did it do this? Well, let's find out. First, let's take a look at the request that was sent. We do this in the Firebug console. By clicking on the request URL, we can see the request information, starting with the headers, which for our purposes right now we don't need. We can see the post data, which was the name parameter with no value, and we can see our request response, which was a header1 tag with hello space inside it. So let's debug this. The Zend Studio toolbar doesn't support Ajax requests. However, based on a tip from Greg Beaver's blog, we can manually invoke the debugger. First, click on the debug button to debug the page containing the JavaScript for the Ajax request. As you can see, it automatically comes up in Zend Studio. To debug our Ajax requests, we simply add the special get arguments that the Zend debugger is listening for to our request URL. I do this by defining a debug variable and concatenating it to the URL. This means I can quickly disable it by redefining the variable as an empty string. You can get the string of get args from my blog. Once you've defined the variable, go ahead and click the Run button, which will finish the execution of the script. Now, with the Zend debugger, any changes made to a script are not executed in the current iteration because of the way PHP parses and executes its code. As you can see here, the debug code is not available. So with the debugging now in place, let's hit the debug button once more in Firefox, and this time we'll see that it is included in our output. One of the great things about the Zend debugger is that it will use the current contents of the file on screen, so you don't even need to save it or commit it to your subversion or whatever. As you can see, our debug output is now there. Now let's submit our form again, and this time we can see in our Firebug console that it's just sitting there, waiting. Once again, we see all of our request information, but this time, instead of a response, we see loading, and the little spinner just keeps on going. This is because the request is currently paused in Zend Studio, waiting for us to interact with it. So let's do just that. First of all, let's look at our post arguments in the _post superglobal. As expected from the information Firebug gave us, the name variable is defined but has no value. And as you can see, our script merely checks if the variable is set, not if it has data. So let's go ahead and add a not empty check to our condition. Once again, the change will not take effect this iteration. So run through the script and head back to Firefox to submit our form again. This time we can see, when stepping through the script, that the if condition now returns false, correctly giving our error back in response, which we can now see in the Firebug console as the response when we expand this latest request. We should also check that the script works correctly when it is passed data. So let's go ahead and put my name in and submit the form again. Again, the Zend debugger picks up the request, handing it off to Zend Studio, where we can verify that the validation now works, giving us Hello Davy as our response.